They spent $250 million bucks making that movie.
Just to defend Big Head Girl, let me tell you something. The message of the movie is to be that. That's the message that they wrote a script.
She was supposed to be the face of Disney's next generation, but now they won't even put her face on the posters. That's what industry insiders are saying about Rachel Zegler as Disney reportedly cuts ties following the Snow White disaster. The numbers don't lie. A projected $115 million loss, box office drops of 66% in just the second weekend, and now Disney's entire live-action remake strategy is in jeopardy. While the studio remains silent, their actions speak volumes as projects get shelved and Rachel's public appearances dwindle. What really happened behind closed doors? Just 3 years ago, nobody knew who Rachel Zegler was. A theater kid from New Jersey posting Broadway covers on YouTube suddenly became Hollywood's next big thing. Her casting as Maria in Spielberg's West Side Story was a genuine fairy tale moment. 30,000 hopefuls auditioned, but this unknown teenager with no film experience landed the coveted role. Critics praised her performance as revelatory and star-making, with her Golden Globe win cementing her status as Hollywood's newest darling. Disney quickly came calling, offering her the crown jewel role of Snow White in their latest live-action remake. But behind the castle walls, trouble was brewing from day one. Disney executives were reportedly taken aback by Rachel's candid interview style during early press events. While the studio was hoping for the typical Disney princess enthusiasm, gushing about childhood dreams and the magic of the role, Rachel took a decidedly different approach. In an interview that would later go viral for all the wrong reasons, she dismissed elements of the 1937 animated classic that made it the beloved film it remains today. "It's no longer 1937, Rachel declared in one particularly damaging interview. She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. In another promotional appearance, she went further, criticizing the prince as a guy who literally stalks her, and describing the original story as weird and outdated. Disney's marketing team reportedly went into damage control mode immediately, but the comments had already spread like wildfire across social media. Industry insiders claim Disney executives were horrified. The studio has spent decades building Snow White as the ultimate princess fantasy, says one former Disney marketing executive. Then their own Snow White comes out and essentially tells parents their daughters shouldn't aspire to be like the character she's playing. It was marketing suicide. The warning signs had actually appeared much earlier. Sources close to production reveal that during initial creative meetings, Rachel's outspoken views on how to modernize the character caused tension with Disney's creative team, who wanted to balance updating the story while maintaining the core elements that made the original a classic. There was immediate concern about Rachel's tendency to go off script in interviews. One production source claims, "Disney likes their stars to stick to approved talking points, especially with properties this valuable." Rachel was already under intense pressure to deliver a commercial hit. Despite critical acclaim, West Side Story had significantly underperformed at the box office, grossing just $76 million against a $100 million budget. This financial disappointment meant Snow White needed to be a blockbuster to solidify her star power. Instead, her controversial statements created a PR nightmare that alienated the film's core family audience before filming had even wrapped. Her social media presence only complicated matters further. As production progressed, Rachel became increasingly political online, taking strong positions on hot-button issues including reproductive rights, gun control, and most controversially, posting pro-Palestinian content during the Israel-Hamas conflict. While actors certainly have the right to express their views, Disney has historically maintained a politically neutral public stance to avoid alienating any segment of their global audience. According to multiple sources familiar with Disney's internal communications, the studio initially defended Rachel against the growing backlash, believing the controversy would fade and that her talent would ultimately win over skeptics. They assigned additional media training and tried to redirect interviews toward safer topics, reveals one insider close to the production. But it was already too late. The damage was done. The final straw came when internal Disney market research revealed alarming trends. Focus groups with parents were devastating, claims a marketing consultant who worked with Disney. The data showed that Rachel's comments about the original Snow White had created significant resistance among families, Disney's bread-and-butter audience. Parents were saying they didn't want to take their daughters to see a Snow White movie where Snow White herself doesn't believe in the magic of the story. Those devastating focus groups were just the beginning of Disney's nightmare. While executives were still processing the alarming market research, a financial catastrophe was silently unfolding at the box office. Snow White wasn't merely underperforming, it was hemorrhaging money at a pace that sent Disney into full crisis mode, with projections pointing to a staggering $115 million loss. For a studio that had turned classic animation into live-action gold, this wasn't just a disappointment. It was a 5-alarm fire threatening their entire remake strategy. The numbers told a brutal story that couldn't be spun into anything remotely positive. After a lackluster opening of just $43 million in the US and Canada, disaster struck in the second weekend as ticket sales plummeted by a shocking 66%, bringing in a meager $14.2 million. This dramatic freefall triggered emergency meetings within Disney's halls of power, with executives scrambling to understand how one of their most beloved properties had crashed so spectacularly. The rapid decline in the second week amplified financial concerns and raised serious questions about the film's long-term prospects, explains an industry analyst who spoke on condition of anonymity. When you see a drop-off that steep, it signals fundamental problems with audience reception, not just opening weekend curiosity that faded. As if the financial bleeding wasn't enough, an environmental controversy poured salt in Disney's wounds. Reports revealed the production had generated approximately 3,153 tons of carbon emissions, surpassing even the most recent Fast and Furious film. This ecological footprint created a secondary PR crisis, especially when compared to The Little Mermaid, which nearly doubled those emissions at 5,127 tons. The environmental backlash added another dimension to the growing Snow White disaster narrative. Disney's response was swift but telling. The studio significantly scaled back premieres for the costly film, limiting red carpet events to photographers only, specifically restricting media interactions. Industry insiders confirm this unusual move was a direct attempt to minimize Rachel Zegler's exposure to journalists, suggesting the studio was desperately trying to prevent any further controversial statements. The most revealing evidence of Snow White's catastrophic impact came when Disney made an unprecedented move, pausing development on other live-action remakes. Despite having already hired The Greatest Showman director Michael Gracie, executives abruptly halted production on Tangled, a project that had been moving forward with considerable momentum. This wasn't a small adjustment. It was a studio slamming the brakes on what had been one of their most reliable revenue generators. The magnitude of the failure becomes even clearer when contrasted with Disney's previous remake triumphs. While Snow White sank into financial quicksand, Beauty and the Beast had grossed a spectacular $1.263 billion worldwide, and Aladdin crossed the coveted $1 billion threshold. Even the more recent Mufasa: The Lion King brought in $720 million globally. Snow White's failure wasn't just an anomaly. It was a stunning reversal of what had become a guaranteed box office formula. Disney's marketing team made another telling shift midway through the campaign, noticeably minimizing Rachel Zegler's presence in promotional materials. Commercials and posters began featuring more magical elements and less of the film's star, a strategy rarely employed unless a studio has lost confidence in their lead's ability to draw audiences. When a podcast with 11 million monthly listeners turns its focus to your career troubles, you've officially crossed the threshold from Hollywood problem to cultural punchline. Joe Rogan's viral discussion about Rachel Zegler didn't just amplify existing whispers, it broadcast them through a megaphone to the entire entertainment industry. The podcast segment featuring Rogan and comedian Kurt Metzger dropped like a bomb in Hollywood circles. As they dissected the Snow White situation, Rogan expressed shock at the film's massive price tag. They spent $250 million making that movie? While both men acknowledged Zegler's young age and limited control over creative decisions, Metzger pinpointed the moment he believes sealed her fate. So now they've put it all on her. Now it failed. Metzger explained to Rogan's massive audience. Here's what happened. She made the cardinal error of saying "Free Palestine" on Twitter. This statement, according to Metzger, created the perfect scapegoat for a studio desperate to explain away a financial disaster. Rogan agreed, suggesting the young actress should have received better guidance. Imagine you spent $250 million and you get some young girl, and you don't kind of talk to her about like, hey, don't get political. You're young, and I know you have opinions about things, but this should be just about the movie. The Palestine post created more than just external PR problems. It reportedly ignited serious tension between Zegler and co-star Gal Gadot behind the scenes. Gadot, who previously served in the Israel Defense Forces, found herself in an uncomfortable position opposite Zegler's pro-Palestine stance. One source described this dynamic as a promotional nightmare for Disney. making coordinated marketing appearances nearly impossible to navigate. The fallout has taken a visible toll on Zegler herself. Recent public sightings paint a picture of an actress who appears somber and deflated, compared to her previously vibrant public persona. Photographers captured her looking downcast in New York City, reflecting the emotional weight of her spectacular fall from grace. Sources close to the situation reveal she's been advised to maintain a significantly lower profile while the storm passes, if it ever does. Perhaps most telling is the internal criticism coming from within the production circle itself. Jonah Platt, son of Snow White producer Mark Platt, didn't mince words in a now-deleted Instagram post that placed blame squarely on Zegler's shoulders. He wrote that his father had to leave his family to fly across the country to reprimand his 20-year-old employee for dragging her personal politics into the middle of promoting the movie, for which she signed a multi-million-dollar contract to get paid and do publicity for. This rare public rebuke from within the production team speaks volumes about the widespread frustration surrounding the film's collapse. What's happening now fits a familiar Hollywood pattern: the quiet blacklist. Studios rarely announce when an actor has fallen from favor. They simply stop calling. Casting lists that once featured Zegler's name have mysteriously been revised. Projects she was rumored to be attached to have announced different leads. Her calendar, once booked years in advance like most rising stars, now shows alarming gaps. Industry insiders confirm this isn't coincidental. Sources connected to 3 major studios reveal Zegler has been quietly removed from consideration lists for upcoming projects. The reasoning is brutally simple. As one executive bluntly stated, "No one wants to be the next Disney right now." With billions at stake in today's franchise-driven Hollywood, studios view outspoken young talent as potential liability rather than asset. This particular form of career assassination leaves few fingerprints. There are no formal announcements, no public firings, just phones that stop ringing and meetings that never materialize. For a 23-year-old actress who skyrocketed from community theater to Hollywood lead in record time, this sudden silence represents a devastating reversal of fortune. The cautionary tale of Rachel Zegler reveals the razor-thin line between Hollywood stardom and industry exile. What began as a dream role has morphed into a career nightmare, with industry insiders confirming her removal from multiple casting lists. The entertainment world watches as this talented actress faces the consequences of her outspokenness in an industry that demands both authenticity and diplomacy. Recovery experts suggest Zegler could rebuild through independent films, strategic social media engagement, and demonstrating genuine growth. While some careers have rebounded from similar setbacks, others haven't. As Disney reconsiders its entire remake strategy, Zegler's journey underscores the brutal reality of an industry where yesterday's princess can become tomorrow's cautionary tale.